Mom, please don't ask me about her. Those words stayed in Laura Bennett's mind long after Ethan walked upstairs and closed his bedroom door. Laura sat quietly on the couch, staring at the cold cup of tea in her hands. Outside is Chicago. Night felt heavy and silent. The streetlights painted long shadows across the living room floor. But Laura barely noticed them. Her thoughts were on her son. Ethan had always been honest with her. Since the day he learned to speak, he had never been good at hiding things. When he lied as a child, his face always turned red, and his eyes looked everywhere except at her. Tonight, she had seen that same look again. Something was wrong, and whatever. It was serious that Laura slowly stood and walked toward the kitchen. She washed the cup, dried it carefully, and placed it back on the shelf. These small actions helped calm her mind, but the uneasy feeling in her chest remained. 10 years ago, when Ethan was 16, Laura's husband had died in a car accident. From that day forward, Laura had promised herself one thing. She would never let Ethan feel alone. She worked 2 jobs for several years, saved money for his college, and supported every dream he had. When Ethan wanted to study engineering, she encouraged him. When he struggled during his second year, she stayed up late with him, helping him believe he could succeed. They had always been a team. That was why the distance she felt from him now hurt so much over the last few months. Ethan had slowly become different. He was still kind, still respectful, but he was distracted. He often left the house without explaining where he was going. Sometimes he came home very late. Sometimes he stayed out all night. When Laura asked simple questions, his answers were short. Just work stuff, meeting a friend. Nothing important. But tonight, things had finally felt different. The lipstick mark on his shirt collar had caught Laura's attention immediately. It was a soft shade of red, the kind grown women often wore. Not a casual thing, and when she asked about it, it looked like someone who had been caught doing something wrong. Laura walked to the living room window and looked outside. The quiet neighborhood looked peaceful. But inside her mind, everything felt unsettled. She trusted Ethan, but trust did not mean blindness. A mother notices things. The next morning, Ethan left early for work. He grabbed a coffee, Laura on the cheek, and said goodbye like nothing had happened. But Laura noticed the tired look in his eyes, and the way he avoided looking at her for too long. After he left, the house felt strangely empty. Laura worked from home as a freelance editor, but she tried focusing on her The phone rang. It was her best friend, Megan's partner. Laura, Megan said cheerfully. Laura smiled slightly. Megan, it's good to hear your voice. We had been friends for almost 15 years. Megan lived only a few streets away. The 2 women often met for coffee or evening walks. You sound tired, Megan said. Laura sighed softly. I didn't sleep well. Everything okay? Laura hesitated. She didn't want to worry Megan, without a reason. I'm not sure, she finally said. What happened? Laura walked toward the kitchen while holding the phone. It's Ethan. He's been acting strange lately. Strange how he's hiding something? Megan was quiet for a moment. Well, that could mean many things, she said carefully. I know, Laura replied, but last night felt different. Before Laura could explain more, Megan spoke again. Actually, that's why I called. Why? I saw Ethan yesterday afternoon. Laura leaned against the kitchen counter. Oh, where? At the Riverside Cafe downtown. That's nice, Laura said. Maybe he was meeting a friend. There was a pause. Then Megan said quietly, he wasn't alone. Laura's stomach tightened. Well, he's 26. She replied lightly, it's normal for him to meet women. Yes, Megan said slowly. But the woman he was with, another pause. Laura felt her heart beat faster. What about her? She looked familiar. Laura frowned. What? Do you mean? Megan took a deep breath before speaking. Laura thinks she's Daniel's wife. For a moment, Laura didn't understand what Megan meant. Daniel, she repeated, yes. Laura's mind immediately pictured Daniel Harris. Daniel was 52, charming, calm, and thoughtful. He was an architect from Toronto who traveled frequently for work. Laura had met him a year earlier at a charity event. Their relationship had grown slowly and comfortably. Daniel often visited Chicago, and when he did, they spent time together. Our walks along the river, quiet conversations that made Laura feel young again. He had told her about his wife, Rebecca, but he said their marriage had become distant over the years. They lived separate lives, but stayed legally married for business reasons at least. That was what he said. Laura felt a sudden chill run through her body. Megan, are you sure? I'm almost certain, Megan replied gently. I saw pictures once when you showed me Daniel's social media. Laura struggled to breathe normally. That doesn't make sense, she whispered. Megan's voice softened. I might be wrong, but the woman looked exactly like her. Laura slowly ended the call after thanking Megan. Then she sat down at the kitchen table. Her thoughts raced in every direction. If Megan was right, then Ethan was having an affair with Rebecca Harris, Daniel's wife. The situation felt impossible. Why would Ethan do something like that? And why would Rebecca be interested in someone so much younger? None of it made sense. The rest of the day passed slowly. Laura tried working again, but failed. She kept imagining different possibilities. Maybe Megan had mistaken the woman. Maybe it was someone else. Maybe there was an explanation, but deep inside, Laura felt a growing fear. That evening, Ethan returned home later than usual. It was almost midnight. Laura was sitting at the kitchen table with the lights on. She had decided something important. Tonight, she would get the truth. Ethan opened the front door quietly, clearly hoping not to wake her, but when he stepped into the kitchen and saw her sitting there, he froze. Mom? Laura looked up calmly. We need to talk. Ethan slowly placed his keys on the counter. What's wrong? Laura studied his face carefully. He looked nervous already. That told her everything. Sit down, she said gently. He pulled out a chair and sat across from her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Laura took a slow breath. I received a phone call today. Ethan's shoulders stiffened. From Megan. His eyes moved slightly. She said she saw you yesterday. Ethan said nothing. At the Riverside Cafe, the silence grew heavier. Laura kept her voice steady. You were with a woman. Still no answer. Laura leaned forward slightly. Ethan, are you having an affair with Daniel Harris's wife? The moment the words left her mouth, Ethan's face lost its he looked like someone who had been suddenly exposed. Mom, Laura's heart sank. You are, she said quietly. Ethan lowered his eyes. The silence confirmed everything. Laura felt a wave of emotions crash through her chest. Disappointment, confusion. Ethan, she said softly, do you understand what you're doing? Rubbed his hands together nervously. That's the second time you've said that. I know. Laura tried to stay calm. Daniel is my boyfriend. Ethan looked up quickly. I know. The words hit Laura like a punch. You knew. Ethan nodded slowly. Unable to believe that she was thinking. So you knew she was his wife? And you still started this relationship? Then you said something that surprised me. It didn't start like that. Laura frowned. What does that mean? Ethan leaned back in his chair, exhausted. I met Rebecca by accident. At a bookstore in my office. Laura listened carefully. She didn't tell me who she was at first. Continue, just talk. She seemed lonely. Laura crossed her arms, and when did you discover she was Daniel's wife? Ethan hesitated. A few weeks later, and he didn't stop. He looked away again. No. Laura felt anger rising inside her. Why? Ethan finally met her eyes. Because by then, he cared about her. The room fell silent. Laura couldn't believe what she was hearing. Her son was involved in an affair that could destroy several lives. Does Daniel know? She asked quietly. No. Laura stood up slowly and walked toward him. Her mind felt overwhelmed. Everything had suddenly become painful. Her relationship with her son. Another woman she had never even met. Something spoke again. I didn't plan it. Laura didn't turn around, but it happened, she said. Double quotes, yes. And now, Ethan's voice grew quieter. I don't know what to do. Laura closed her eyes for a moment. 1,000 thoughts filled her mind, but one question remained strong. Then the others. Who was Rebecca Harris, really? And why would a married woman risk everything for a young man like Ethan? Laura slowly turned back toward him. Ethan, she said carefully, I want to meet her. His eyes widened. Mom, that's a bad idea. Maybe. Laura's voice became firm. But if this situation is real, it deserved to understand. Ethan looked deeply worried. You don't know, Rebecca. Laura gave a sad smile. You're right, she said quietly. But something tells me I'm about to. And deep inside her heart, Laura felt a strange fear growing. Because she had a feeling that meeting Rebecca, Harris, would reveal a truth far more shocking than the affair itself. And once that truth came out, none of their lives would ever be the same again. Laura did not sleep that night. She stayed awake in her bedroom, staring at the ceiling while the quiet Chicago night slowly closed. Every time she closed her eyes, the same thought returned. Her son was involved with the wife of the man she loved. It felt unreal, like a strange story someone else was living. But every detail of the conversation would be replayed clearly in her mind by morning. Laura had made a decision. She needed to meet Rebecca Harris. Not tomorrow, not next week, today, when. Laura walked into the kitchen. Ethan was already there. He looked just as tired as she felt. Dark circles rested under his eyes. His coffee sat untouched on the table. They looked at each other silently for a moment. Finally, Laura spoke. Call her. Ethan frowned. Who? You know who. He shook his head slowly. Mom, I told you. Last night, meeting her will only make things worse. Laura walked to the table and sat down across from him. Maybe, she said calmly. The only confusion is worse. Ethan rubbed his face with both hands. You don't understand, Rebecca. Then help me understand. Hesitated, clearly struggling inside. Laura softened her voice. Ethan, if you care about her, then this situation will not disappear. By pretending it doesn't exist. He looked at her for a long moment. Then he sighed. I'll ask if she needs you. Laura nodded. Double quotes. Thank you. Ethan pulled out his phone and sent a message. His fingers moved slowly across the screen, as if each word carried weight. A few minutes passed, then his phone buzzed. He read the reply and looked up. She said yes. Laura felt a strange relief and anxiety. When? Tonight. Where? Same place Megan saw us, Ethan said quietly. The Riverside path. Laura took a deep breath. All right. The rest of the day moved strangely slowly. Laura tried to focus on work, but the words on her screen meant nothing. Her thoughts kept moving toward the evening. What kind of woman? Was Rebecca Harris? Why would she risk her marriage for a man 20 years younger? And why had Ethan fallen for her so deeply? By the time evening arrived, Laura felt both nervous and determined. At 7 o'clock, she walked into the Riverside. The warm light and soft music made the place feel comfortable. But Laura's heart beat faster with every step. Ethan was already there, sitting at a corner table near the window. When he saw her, he stood up. She's not here yet, he said quietly. Laura sat down across from him. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Ethan said something unexpected. Mom, please don't hate her. Laura looked at him carefully. That depends on the truth. Before Ethan could reply, the cafe door opened, got both of them turned. A woman walked inside. She was elegant, confident, and graceful. Her dark hair rested neatly on her shoulders, and her calm expression made her look younger than Laura expected. Rebecca. Harris. She spotted Ethan immediately. Then her eyes moved toward Laura. For a brief moment, something unreadable passed across her face. Rebecca slowly walked toward the table. "Hello, Ethan," she said softly. Then she looked at Laura. "You must be Laura." Laura stood politely. "Yes." Rebecca extended her hand. "It's nice to finally meet you." Laura shook it. Her grip felt steady, even though her heart was racing. They all sat down. An uncomfortable silence filled the table. Finally, Laura spoke. "I appreciate you agreeing to meet me." Rebecca nodded. "I thought it was important." Laura looked directly at her. "Then let's not waste time." Rebecca remained calm. "Fair enough." Laura leaned slightly forward. "Are you having an affair with my son?" Rebecca did not look surprised by the question. "Yes," she said quietly. Ethan shifted uncomfortably in his seat, but Rebecca's voice remained steady. Laura studied her. "Face carefully, you're honest," Laura said. Rebecca gave a small smile. Lying would only make things worse. Laura crossed her arms. "You're married to Daniel Harris?" "Yes." "And you know he's in a relationship with me?" "Yes." Laura felt frustration building. "Then why?" Rebecca looked at Ethan for a moment before answering. "Because my marriage ended a long time ago." Laura frowned. "Daniel told me the same thing." Rebecca nodded slowly. "He probably believes that." Laura's confusion deepened. "What does that mean?" Rebecca took a quiet breath. "Daniel and I stopped loving each other years ago. We stayed together because our lives were connected. Business, family expectations, reputation." Laura listened carefully. "But that doesn't explain Ethan." Rebecca turned her eyes toward Ethan again. "When I met him, I wasn't looking for anything." Ethan looked down at the table. Rebecca continued speaking. "He was kind, honest, and genuine. He didn't see me as someone's wife or someone's responsibility. He simply saw me as a person." Laura studied them both, and that was enough to start an affair. Rebecca shook her head. "No, at first, we were just friends." Laura raised an eyebrow, and then Rebecca's voice softened. "Then I started realizing something about my life." "What?" Rebecca looked directly at Laura. "That I had been living it for everyone except myself." The words hung in the air. Laura felt an unexpected emotion, stirring inside her, not agreement, but understanding. Still, she remained firm. "You're describing feelings," Laura said. "But feelings don't erase consequences." Rebecca nodded. "You're right." Laura leaned back in her chair. "So where does that leave us?" Rebecca looked thoughtful. "That depends on Daniel." The name brought tension back to the table. Laura's eyes narrowed slightly. "What do you mean?" Rebecca hesitated. "There's something you don't know." Ethan suddenly looked uncomfortable. "Rebecca," but she raised a hand gently. "It's time." Laura's heart started beating faster. "Time? For what?" Rebecca turned to face her fully. "Daniel hasn't been honest with you." Laura felt a cold wave pass through her body. "What are you talking about?" Rebecca spoke carefully. "Daniel didn't just stay married to me for business reasons." Laura stared at her. "Then why?" Rebecca's expression became serious. "Because he's been involved with someone else for years." The words hit Laura like a shock. "What?" Rebecca nodded slowly. "A younger woman in Toronto." Laura shook her head. "No, he would have told me." Rebecca's voice remained calm. "He didn't tell you about Ethan either." Laura suddenly felt dizzy. All the pieces of her life felt unstable. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked, quietly. Rebecca's answer came without hesitation. "Because you deserve the truth." Laura sat there silently, trying to process everything. Ethan finally spoke. Mom, I didn't know about Daniel's other relationship either. Laura looked at him. Rebecca told me 2 weeks ago. Laura slowly turned back to Rebecca. Why stay married if you both live separate lives? Rebecca sighed. Habit, fear, convenience. Laura rubbed her temples. So everyone is lying to everyone. Rebecca gave a sad smile. More or less. The table fell silent again. Laura looked out the window at the dark river. Flowing past the cafe, her world felt completely different from the one she believed in yesterday. Finally, she spoke again. What do you want from me, then? Rebecca didn't answer immediately. When she finally did, her voice carried surprising honesty. I want a real life. Laura studied her carefully. With my son, Rebecca nodded slowly. If he wants the same, Ethan looked shocked by the directness. Rebecca. She turned to him gently. I'm tired of pretending. Laura watched them both in that moment. She saw something she hadn't expected. This wasn't a reckless affair. It was messy, complicated, and risky. But it was also real. Still, the situation hurt deeply. Laura stood up slowly. I need time. She said that. Ethan looked worried. Mom. Laura placed a hand on his shoulder. I'm not angry, she said quietly, just overwhelmed. She looked at Rebecca. Thank you for telling the truth. Rebecca nodded respectfully. Laura picked up her coat and walked toward the cafe door. Outside, the cool night air hit her face. She stood there for a moment, breathing slowly. Her relationship with Daniel suddenly felt fragile. Her son had crossed a line, but maybe that line had already existed long before. Ethan stepped over. Laura realized something important. Sometimes people don't break rules because they want to hurt others. Sometimes they do it because they are tired of living in lies. Laura looked up at the city lights, reflecting across the river. Tomorrow, she would speak with Daniel. Tomorrow, she would finally hear his side of the story. But tonight, she understood one thing clearly. The line Ethan crossed had not destroyed her. Instead, it had forced the truth into the open. And sometimes, the truth was the only place where real life could finally begin.